Have you ever had something that you knew you needed to accomplish, but there were 100 different ways you could go about to doing it? Like you knew the mission, the question was the method. And sometimes we can choose the really simple method, and other times we can make the mission way more complicated than it needs to be. At our house, my wife makes me play this missional game that's never officially been named, but I'm going to call it Guess What I Want for Dinner game, okay? Some of you have also played this game, I can tell. Okay. Sydney will ask me, like, what do you want for dinner? And I'll say, burrito bowls sound good. And she'll be like, meh. That's it, meh. And so, like, in which I know am on mission, right, so to speak, of figuring out, like, what does my wife actually want for dinner? So I'll ask, like, what do you want? And then she'll say, I don't care. And then I'll say, whoa, wait, you do, because you didn't like my suggestion, in which I then go into the mode of listing out all the different options. It is my method to accomplishing the mission, to try and funnel in on what she wants. And this is exhausting, but I'm getting better at it. My method is faster because I know the things she likes. Anyone else play this game at home? Okay, lots of you have played this game or have had this mission. There are other missions in life like this. Let's call it the mission to get your kid to clean their room. Y'all have played this one, I think, before. Like some of you are expert parents and like you have them disciplined and they just do it. You're a savant, right? It's like you're making the rest of us look bad. Because for most of us, if I was to guess, it starts with like a bribe, it starts with reasoning with them, then goes to threatening, to then quietly you throwing them into the places to clean the room yourself, all right? We all deal with different missions, and we all have different methods to getting them done. As part of our message series that we're in right now, we've been referring to the movies Mission Impossible. Is anyone a fan of these movies? Was anyone a fan of these movies like years ago at least? Okay, some of you, great. Someone told me a week ago they think the movies are getting worse because Tom Cruise is getting older, which I realized was apparently a movie review based almost entirely on Tom Cruise's attractiveness. But I think they're still quite intriguing, and they deal with like intense missions. There's one scene I stumbled upon where he has to climb kind of the world's tallest building because they feel it's the only way that they can get inside the building without detection. And it's like up on top where they need to get to. But all he has to climb this building is these electronic gloves. Here's like a little scene of it. Check it out.
Remember, it's a rolling off motion that disengages the bond.
Ethan, the hotel server's 11 stories up and 7 units over.
Copy.
It's 26 minutes to door knock.
25 minutes to door knock.
Where's Ethan?
20.
All he has is these gloves to like hold on to the building. Now, as you see that, and I watch that, I think, no offense, but if the mission involves me only using electronic gloves to climb that high up, I think I'm going to take the extra bit to brainstorm some other ideas, all right? Or some different methods. But the reason I'm making kind of a big deal or a big fuss about missions and methods to it is over the past few weeks here, we've talked about this mission that God has given us. And with that mission, different places, different people seem to have different approaches to it. Today, I want to share our approach to it and how you can have immense purpose in helping accomplish it. But before we do go any further, I do like to just say, like, welcome to Centerpoint if you're just visiting. My name is DeMaster. I'm a pastor here. If you're just visiting or newer, like, we're super happy you're here. No matter where you're at in your faith journey, we want you to know that you're welcome here. You're always welcome here. This week, we are wrapping up our series that we're calling Mission Possible, and it's all on Matthew 28, the Great Commission. This passage that I want to read for you is what this whole series has kind of like come from. It's Matthew 28, verse 18 through 20, and it says this. It says, Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. It's known as the Great Commission, that passage that I just read you. And we've had kind of like two unique kind of speakers in this series so far, kind of prepping for this week. I think they've done a really good job setting me up for today. If you haven't been, I want to get you caught up for just like 1 minute here, because it's kind of been a progression. So week one, why is there even a mission, was kind of what the message was about by Pastor Ben. We learned God wants to be in relationship with us. We saw that with the people in the Bible, like people such as the first humans, Adam and Eve, and Abraham and Moses, and the nation of Israel even. Like he just wants to be near and be in a healthy relationship with humans and us. But we continue to do wrong and cause separation between us and God. And Ben taught on how when you really dig into the Bible, like kind of an overview of it all, it is the story of God pursuing his people. And what we see is ultimately God continues to keep choosing us and going after us to make a way that is outside of our works and our obedience. Because we all know we can't do life flawlessly. We all fail at times. So Jesus, God, living as a human, is sent with the primary mission to be the sacrifice to take the consequences or pay the price, so to speak, with his life for all of mankind's wrongs so that people can have their consequences taken for them and be with God. Sounds awful for him, amazing for us. That's the gospel. That's what Ben presented. But then after Jesus does all this, overcomes death by both still being God and the sacrifice, he leaves us with this mission, in which week 2, Jason taught, what does this mean? Like, I read the words of like that passage, I can read it, but like, what does it actually mean? What exactly is the mission? I don't know if you've ever been there before when you read things. This is definitely me. Like, I'll read the words, but not actually processing anything it's actually like saying, so to speak. Like, I'm reading them, but it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you're like, doesn't click, right? So instead of just them being words, Jason gave us clarity of what all Christians, all churches are to do. And to kind of sum it up into 4 different things, Jesus tells his followers to go, make disciples, baptize, and teach in that Great Commission. This is the mission. This is the mission all churches and people are to embrace from Jesus. Like the games or the missions I talked about earlier, that people can have, they can have different approaches to this, and it can all be good, but like we are going to start funneling in on like what our method to this mission is, which is week 3. What are we to do about it? And the we that I'm talking about today is center point, and then also you and me. How do we do that mission here? And I know some of you might be thinking that, like, you hear this and you're like, okay, Aaron, like this just sounds kind of like a churchy person message, okay? Go, make disciples, baptize, teach. I'm not even sure if I believe all this yet. You're going to tell me I got to contribute to those things? This sounds like a you thing. You might be thinking, that sounds like a pastory thing, Aaron. And if that's you thinking something like that, don't check out on me yet. Because before I tell you like what our church is doing with this mission, I want to tell you why I personally love this mission from Jesus. And it's not because I'm a pastor. It's honestly one of the things I'm most grateful for God for. God has given my life something to be about. I get to wake up believing my life can contribute to something bigger than me because of this. And that, I believe, is a deeply human longing. To nerd out with you briefly, before I was a pastor, I was a teacher, and we studied Maslow's hierarchy of need, like as you think about kids and people in general. And at the bottom is like physiological needs, like you need food and water and shelter, and then safety and security, and then you need love and belonging, and your self-esteem needs to be met. But at the top, what people often skip is self-actualization, which talks about creativity and acceptance and having purpose and meaning. That's at the top. Like you might have all the things on the bottom. Great, right? But if you haven't found contentment, life fulfillment, it might be that you are living without this God-given mission, this God-given purpose. And I don't know about you, but for me, that was something I deeply craved. And it's crazy how satisfying being on mission really is. But even crazier than that is God lets someone like me be a part of it. I don't mean someone like me because I'm a pastor or because I became a pastor. I mean someone like me because I am and was someone who screwed up with things big time in the past. Someone who doesn't always get it right still. Someone who has questioned God profoundly, doubted Him substantially, disappointed Him. Someone who has made so many decisions that I'd be embarrassed if I had to share them with you right now. I never want to be just like vague with you about these certain things because I do believe the more raw I can be, the more it helps people connect and think of their own experience. So for me to be a bit honest with you, like what that was in the past is I made decisions where I directly disobeyed God. Like I would feel this prompting to not do this thing or to do this thing, and I would do the opposite. Like, don't do this purchase. I did it. Or, don't go do this evening out. I did it. Or one too many, right? I've had to wrestle with an extremely selfish personality in the past. Selfish in how I dated early on, how I used my money, selfish in choosing where I spend my time. I've been a giver of like some really awful comments to people in the past. I've been a judger and can even mask it up with a Christian word of being like, I'm just discerning. I'm discerning right now. Even just recently, just this week, I caught myself saying something so ignorant to others or about others to my 2-year-old son. And so later, I was like, I corrected myself to him and I apologized to him. And I literally don't think he had any idea that it happened. But he said, "It's okay, Daddy." And I was like, thanks. Thanks, bud. But what's so interesting with all of this is what I read about in the Bible is God doesn't just forgive people like me who do those things. He uses people like me and continues to refine and restore people like me. And I'm so grateful for that because I want to be on mission and have a purpose that's outside of just me. I want the contentment of living life to the fullest, as Maslow's pyramid shows. I want to live for something outside of me and my family and our wealth and our well-being and our wants. And that, I believe, is something that the Great Commission offers us. And it's the same mission that kind of shaped and birthed Centerpoint. So today, I want to tell you kind of like how Centerpoint has decided to approach the mission that Jesus gives us. But more than that, before we're done, I'm going to ask you if you are living for a mission outside of you. And I'm going to have you think like, how could you be a part of the mission that Jesus gives you? If you are experiencing a void today or of purpose in life, if you don't find great joy for living, you're maybe burning out right now, stuck in routine, feeling bogged down, this could be maybe the thing you're living without right now. Or maybe you're not a Christian today, but you're feeling this void. Maybe today this is God kind of calling you towards Him. So we're going to explore being on mission and our method. So Centerpoint was built around the idea that we are to go, make disciples, baptize, and teach. It's a pretty clear mission, right? In the Mission Impossible movies, they get a mission just like we did. Each movie kind of has a mission, right? But I don't know about you, but the methods they choose are interesting, right? Like, hey, there's something on top of the rock. Instead of just taking like a helicopter or whatever, let's climb the face of the rock, right? Or like this one, the package is in the building next door. Why would we go through the door when we should just run on the roof and jump, right? Nevertheless, sprint in that process. How they do the mission might not be exactly how you and I would do it or even attempt. But whatever method they choose, they have a mission. And they are solving it in what we can maybe assume to be the best way possible based off of their context. Or maybe the most cinematic way, right? But for us, all churches, all Christians kind of have the same mission from Jesus. What differs is our methods. And I think God uses different churches and people to reach different people under the same mission, just different methods. So for our sake here, I want to be super clear with you. Our method is to filter everything through being a church for people who are unchurched. Now, this isn't the Great Commission. It's our approach to the Great Commission. That myself and a few others around, like in people's homes, before Centerpoint even started, we had no building, no money. We sat around in this person's house, and we talked about these ideas. It was amazing. And we came up with these things. We rallied around the idea, the fact that we are going to obsess over the people who aren't connected to a church. So our going was intentionally being prepared to engage unchurched people. And who we saw missing in the churches in Fond du Lac were kind of like young families, young adults, and then singles and couples who felt out of the religious loop, like they didn't belong in a certain church or a certain type of situation. So we did events, we did meetings, we eventually held church services with the understanding that this would be us going to the unchurched by creating a space with the intentionality behind having understandable Bible teaching, welcoming environments, positive, relevant, and real culture, a place where kids were prioritized, and it was obvious we prioritized kids, a place where you could invite your unchurched friend and family and not cringe ooh, it might not be a good Sunday to bring them to. That's how we went to people and still are going in this way. We believe people want something like this. I'd even say humanly need a place like this. And so we respond to the go by creating it. But it doesn't stop there. Our mission statement is that, if you've been coming for a while, you've heard me say it kind of every message. Our mission statement is to help you take the next step in your relationship with God. To fulfill the mission of Jesus isn't to just go, isn't to just create a place that people like to be at. It's to make disciples. What is a disciple? Well, for my Bible nerds in the room right now, it's the Greek word that. I don't speak Greek. I didn't take Greek, okay? It's that, okay? So I have a little pronunciation. This is from YouTube. Here's how you would pronounce it.
Mathetes.
Nice, right? Sounds great. Okay, so we look at that. Let's just go with mathlete. Kind of looks like it, right? Mathlete, mathlete, okay? Okay, y'all know what I mean by when I say the word mathlete? You know what a mathlete is? A nerdy, passionate person for all things math? That's a mathlete, okay. But a disciple, so hold that thought, but a disciple is an active learner or a committed follower of a specific teacher. The New Testament usage, it appears over 260 times in the Gospel and Acts to describe someone who not only listens to Jesus' teachings, but closely follows his way of life. So again, sounds kind of like a mathlete type person following Jesus. Now, I'm being a bit silly with this because I want this nerdy image of mathletes to stick with you, of disciples of Jesus, of people following Jesus who are kind of nerdy about him. I want that to sit with you for a second. Because honestly, that is what a disciple is. A disciple is a student, an active learner, a follower, a nerd per se of what or who they are following. And so our mission is to help you, who's in the room right now, today, become a greater nerd per se of Jesus, a greater student of Jesus, because we believe he's to be your Lord, and he tells you to follow him and his ways. Come follow me. But you also need to hear this, because for an unchurched person, our approach to this is to simply help you take a step towards that nerdiness of Jesus, or to start having you be intrigued to have this interest of him, to help you see that you not only need to follow him, and we kind of start presenting some things that show you that you might actually want to follow him. You not only need to or should, but you want to. And how we do that is we share God's goodness, his love, his forgiveness, how his word gives direction on friendship and parenting and marriage and money and how to deal with enemies and how to approach conflict and leadership and so many things. It's amazing. And sometimes to get the ball rolling for someone in faith, you need to start there alone, before all the other weird churchy things, right? A lot of our messages and themes on Sundays are geared towards that because our mission of going to unchurched individuals. And the reason we do this is because I don't know about you, but when I was unchurched, I didn't care what the Bible said about a specific thing. I didn't care like that Jesus said to do this. I was unchurched. I wasn't really a Christian. What do I care about that? But then if you present it as in these truths and help people see that like it can impact their life, now I'm intrigued. The truth started to help me become intrigued and become a disciple of Jesus. And that's what we hope here. So we intentionally show God's ways can actually help you. And that's a strategic move we make here and do here. But it is incomplete if it just stays there. You need to hear me say that like loud and clear. We aren't just teaching the pros of God. We aren't just teaching the positives of Jesus. We aren't just for only the things God can help us with. We aren't just a fun church. We are fun, though. We are fun. And that's okay. But we believe a full-rounded disciple, a mathlete of Jesus, needs to do the things God tells us to do. In which this is where both the teachings and baptism part of this kind of come in for the mission. When looking at Jesus' example of how he called his disciples early on, this is like before he had any momentum, before people really even knew who he was, we see Jesus said, "Come and see." He didn't tell them all the things they were doing wrong or all the hard things that they're going to have to endure later on. He just says, "Come and see," initially. Come and see. And we believe we are also to start there. And as people come and see more and more in their learning in the time of being a disciple, you learn there are some things that are a pretty big deal of God that like he wants you to do. For example, baptism. It's a pretty big deal. And so like we encourage people to get baptized. We encourage people to do this thing like where they're to stand in the water with their clothes on and let a 36-year-old man, aka me, like push them underwater and then decide when I will let them come back up. And then we clap for them. Yeah, you did it. Like that seems kind of weird, right? Seems kind of strange, especially if that's like with what you lead with, right? But we see people do it because it shows they're identifying with Jesus. And because they learned through Scripture that Jesus sees it as important. Is that easy for someone to just like commit to doing? No, but we teach it. Same goes with things on surrender and removing of idols in our life, sexuality, forgiveness, time priorities, relationships, money ethics. Are these teachings we love doing? I'll be the first to answer that. No, it's not super fun all the time. But when people come and see that the Lord, that Jesus is good, and want to progressively keep coming and seeing more of that, they will keep being a nerd and follow in even some of these harder things then. And so we prioritize teaching things on Sunday that all people can come and see, and our hope is before they get blasted with some of the harder things of following Jesus, they've developed community and love and partnership through a church, a pastor, and the people here. People who will wrestle with them as they go through some of the tougher stuff, as they become a full-rounded disciple, aka mathlete. Again, our method to the making disciples part of the mission. That's what we do. Right now I'm working on a newer message series for next year, and it's going to kind of look at the different stages of life, and kind of the stages would be maybe compartmentalized as like young adults, adulthood, and then like retired and on, all right? And so 3 stages, and it talks about like kind of, in the series, my hope is to talk about how discipleship actually truly should shift depending on where you land. But one of the stories, a recent book that I'm using to kind of study this all, was with, they had a conversation with a monk, and they asked him, he's at age like 80, "Do you still wrestle with the devil, Father Macarios?" they asked. Meaning, do you still like feel this pull towards evil and temptations of like life that maybe were very often in the younger stages of life? Things like greed and lust and pride. And it says this, the old monk reflected for a while and then replied, "Not any longer, my child. I have grown old now, and he has grown old with me. He doesn't have the strength. I wrestle with God." "With God," explained the astonished young writer. "And you hope to win?" "I hope to lose, my child," replied the old ascetic. My bones remain with me still, and they continue to resist. I think this is such a profound way of looking at discipleship. There are things we need to overcome and do in sync with God that many times are easier to address in faith, especially early on. They are obvious. Again, greed, lust, pride. But then there are things within us that we nevertheless need to get rid of as soon as possible. But they are typically things that need stamina and matured faith to keep going, to keep fighting those things. Things like selfishness and surrender and worship of God first. And that's what we hope to guide people on in their journey. We aren't in it just for the short run. We are in it for the long haul of teaching all that God has over the years a person calls Centerpoint home, providing deep support, relationship, and foundation that's been built prior so people are ready with those essential things as they start addressing maybe some of those more mature issues. So again, we're on mission to go, to make disciples, to baptize, and to teach. And our method is, for many of you, maybe quite unique, at least from what you're used to. But nonetheless, it is our method to the mission given by Jesus. These things were things that I thought were kind of like, we're a grassroots church plant. These are original. These are ours. We thought of these in that house in 2019. I thought it was great. And now, 6 years later, we're still seeing fruit from it. It's amazing. And not only that, I've noticed alignment, though, with other churches are doing that too. Recently, the leadership team here and we've discussed partnering with this church network that seems to hold almost identical values as Centerpoint. A little backstory you need to know, over the last few years, we have been a church, a Christian, non-denominational church that is fully independent from any network or church group. This fall, we are in kind of the final stages of joining a network purely as a partner amongst other churches, meaning one where they don't really have control over what we do or anything like that. It's just a give and take partnership. But they'll be a partner to coach us and cheer us on for as long as we so choose to help us keep doing the mission the way we do the mission. And they're able to do that well for us because our vision of how to accomplish it is so in sync with what this network of churches prioritizes. The network, it's called ICN. It's called Irresistible Church Network, and the name kind of already says it. They're trying to be a network of churches that is irresistible for the community, creating irresistible spaces, irresistible teaching, irresistible groups. They operate this way, here's kind of their foundation. We believe every community should have a church that unchurched people love to attend. Why do we believe this? People who are nothing like Jesus, and he liked them back. Every community should have a church just like that. Some of the things they prioritize is they do, they're for their community. They focus on intentional relationships. They're all about creating irresistible environments in a space where people are excited about coming to. And then they're all about being committed to the next gen. These are all things our church does. We've prioritized since the beginning. What they do as partners is they're going to help us kind of implement this and continue to implement this locally. They're going to be part of a collaboration. We get to share our things of what worked for us and things that worked for them and collaborate with other churches that are all doing the same thing. And then global influence. They're going to help us be able to reach the nations and with some of these methods. This is how they operate. We're partnering with them because, again, we believe in our method here because we've seen it work and so have they. So through their partnership, we will ensure that we stay a church for the unchurched, which it might sound easy to do, to just keep doing what you've been doing for years. It's really not. It's really not. It's really easy for a church, for the unchurched even, to gradually just become for the church, for the people who are the church. Now, this network joining won't really have a ton of impact on you per se. And honestly, the network, it's not going to fulfill the mission for us. The way the mission and the actions of our methods actually get done is by people hearing the Great Commission of Jesus and being willing to engage with the mission. Many think, well, that's the church's job. And what they mean by that is that's the church's staff's job. But that's not how it works. And that's not who Jesus was talking to in Matthew 28. He wasn't like, hey, all you Christians. No, not you guys. Pastors. Hey, pastors. You guys take a nap. Pastors, church workers, I'm going to tell you some things. Y'all don't worry about it. That was not it. That was not it. A church is the people, the disciples of Jesus. People following Jesus. And what we see in the mission is those were the people hearing the mission. We are the people today reading the words of Jesus and thinking, wait, he's referring to me to go. And unfortunately, without you pursuing Jesus, without you helping go and being welcoming to unchurched people, without you going out into our community to bring people in, without you going out to invite, without you being willing to pray for others, the going doesn't really happen as effectively as it could. Without you teaching through your example, without you sharing God's love or teaching in that way, without you teaching through your words, teaching doesn't happen as effectively as it could. Without you both embracing discipleship challenges yourself and encouraging discipleship challenges of others, without you getting baptized and encouraging people to get baptized, discipleship and baptism don't happen as well as they could. The mission doesn't go far. Which means, again, this mission is for you and it needs you. I mentioned my past a little bit earlier, that being kind of messy, and to just talk briefly on it again. I did some things like a pastor nor a Christian should ever do, and my actions definitely don't match what a qualified team member should and shouldn't do for being on God's mission team, so to speak, right? That's not how God operates. He calls all of us. He gives us all the mission. Our qualifications to serve Him is not based off of our track record. It's based on because we're chosen by Him and are His loved creation, who He partners with. It's just, will you see yourself as one who is to be on mission with Him? I mentioned Tom Cruise getting older. His name is Ethan in the show. It seems he just can't stop embracing new missions. Both Tom Cruise and Ethan, it seems, right? Each movie. What are they on right now? Mission Impossible 10? Something like that? 8? No, although the movie series maybe should just die and be done. I think the decision of Ethan, the character in here, to just say yes, to be a part of the next mission, is honestly a deeply human need, reminding us we're destined for mission. There is this soul longing and yearning to be a part of something bigger. And when you get a taste of being on mission, accomplishing just a little something, you can't help but want to do more. I think that's the same with God. If you have a yearning for something more, maybe you're feeling life is lackluster right now, or you and your spouse are just kind of roommates getting by. You're more worried about what you eat and what you wear and your kids' practice schedule. Life kind of just feels meh. You're bogged down by routine. If you're doing these things and you're experiencing kind of a lacked contentedness, I wouldn't be surprised if it's because you are not on mission. So what do you say? Want to be on a mission? To start might just be living your life in sync with the mission of God. Maybe for the first time you're realizing those are actually things you should do. Go to church, become a disciple, get baptized, learn, right? If that's you, if you have not yet started that journey with God, I want to help you tell that to God, that I want this God, that you believe what Jesus did for you and made a way for you, a relationship for you and God, and that He invites you in on a journey with Him. You can say that in your head and your heart with Him, and that's starting a relationship with God, a partnership with God, to start living purposefully with things in the direction that He gives us. But then when you do that, you instantly become a person who receives the mission, to be a person who helps someone who's to go and make sure church is for unchurched people, to make disciples by sharpening them in mature Christian relationships, to be in a place that helps teach about baptism and get people baptized and teach through your words and through your actions. When you do this, you are not only on mission with Jesus and helping make His purpose possible, but you're helping our method also, our winning method, grow. The mission can feel like this at times, a giant tower. How are we going to do this? But we're seeing our mission, our method to the mission is working. Which leads to the last question that I think maybe would pop into your mind if you're really processing this today is, how does a messy person like me actually be a part of this mission and this method? And for this, I think it starts with just taking a step in maybe one of the areas. Like going. Like for you, like maybe you just need to partner with, we're doing prayer walks. I don't know if you saw that in the email I sent out this week. We're doing prayer walks of different schools in the community areas of Fond du Lac this week. If you sign up for just one area, maybe you start by going and praying. That could be amazing. You can see Bree out there. She'll help you get signed up. She was the person that was in the announcement video using the QR code. Maybe you need to just go and invite unchurched people that you know of. Maybe you need to help create a positive unchurched culture by serving on Sundays, thinking more about them than your own needs. Maybe you need to sign up and just serve on Wednesdays. You heard about our Wednesday services. You sign up and serve with zero intention of attending. It's just to serve that day. Maybe for you, your step is in making disciples. Like maybe you need to share your faith more openly. Maybe you need to help people come and see. Maybe you need to host a life group. Baptized. Maybe you need to get baptized and pave the way for others. Maybe you need to encourage it. Maybe you need to share your story more or teach. Maybe you need to model faith. Maybe you need to go first with forgiveness or mercy or generosity with that person that you just don't want to. Maybe you need to speak up in whatever area it is and teach. We all play a part in the mission. It's just, will you? To circle back to kind of the ridiculous game that I mentioned Sydney, my wife, and I play about dinner, eventually I know the mission. Eventually I do. What it is it's figure out what Sydney wants for dinner. And after doing this now long enough, almost 10 years, I actually have a method too. I know the restaurant she likes. I know the meal she's going to say yes to. I know the questions to ask. At some point, I don't need more information. I just need to embrace the mission and do it. I wonder if that's the same, or if that's where some of us are with Jesus. Like, we know the mission. Go, make disciples, baptize, teach. And if Centerpoint's your church, you know our method. We're going to be a church for unchurched. We're going to create places and events that people want to come to. We're going to invite. We're going to help people take next steps, and we're going to teach people to follow Jesus. You know the mission. You know the method. Maybe what you need isn't another sermon explaining it. Maybe you just need to embrace doing it. As a pastor of this church, it is my job to ensure that not only that our church's mission gets fulfilled, but to also encourage you towards being a part of Jesus' mission. And so what I want to do is to kind of wrap up our time together, is I want you to leave with something tangible, in a way that is filled with action. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to have the band come up, and they're going to do this next song. And I want you to just sit during this next song and just listen to the words. I want you to process the gratitude that you should have that God is inviting you in on mission with Him. Thank Him for that. Be excited about that. That is fulfilling a need. And then also, I want you to think about how God can use you for His mission. This next song, there's a couple lines in it that's just powerful. They sing, "All my life you've been right here by my side. Who am I that you keep me on your mind?" It's powerful. But during this song, again, I want us to process gratitude to be on mission and then ask God to speak to us and help us know what it is for each of us that we can do this week in response to the Great Commission. So again, just take this time, listen to the words while sitting, finding gratitude and your role with God's mission.